I'm Joshua Patrick Dudley, and I'm the writer, director, executive producer, and I play Jack in the movie Theta. My character Jack is pretty much based on me. All of Theta is pretty much based on real life minus the murdering part. But I was in a relationship with a man who cheated on me with a woman, and, you know, for therapy, I wrote a movie about killing them to get over it. Originally, Theta was called Wifey, because that was my nickname that my boyfriend or ex-boyfriend had given me. And it's important to know that my ex-boyfriend and many of my ex-boyfriends consider themselves to be straight. So that was a big factor in this movie too, that basically my character was a gay guy who dated a straight guy that ended up cheating on him with a woman and then chose the woman over him. Jack's character finds out that he's dying of a brain tumor, and this kind of sends him over the edge. And in what you see in the movie, it's more of a panic state for him in the opening scene where he's sitting and talking about it with Rachel's character, Karen, in the movie.
Hi, I'm Rachel Alexandria Arnold, and I was co-director, executive producer, and 100% that bitch, being Karen, in Theta. In the beginning of Theta, Jack finds out he's dying from cancer, and Karen goes from best friend to uber supportive best friend. And what was new about me playing a role like Karen is that this is the first time that I went from organizing chaos or recruiting other people to kill, and I was rolling up my sleeves and getting my hands dirty and actually killing people myself. Some of the small details that you don't think about, you know, when you take on a role that is a killer in one of these movies is, can you see? So many of our killers wear a mask, and we wore masks in this movie even though it wasn't a stab, you know, in the stab universe, that it was difficult to see. Wearing a costume. We had an easy costume. It was, you know, basically all black in our Theta sweatshirts, but we don't always film in the best climate to be in a hoodie, you know what I mean? Especially when you're in a hoodie and a mask, breathing in your own air, sweating to death. It just was an added element that you had to think about all the time. It was always on your mind. The other thing that you had to think about is now you're the one swinging the knife. You're the one swinging the tool. And we haven't had the greatest track record of people not getting injured. Even though we take so many precautions and we coach people through scenes like this that are going to involve weapons so that they don't do things that will increase the risk of getting hurt. It still has happened. And so now I'm like, great, I don't want to be that person that we're now talking about in these documentaries that's harmed somebody with one of our, you know, our tools of torture. So that was constantly in the back of my head. I was glad that, though there were early talks of finding like a real but not powered chainsaw, that we ended up with a fake one, because if we had a real one, I don't think it would have been a good thing for me, especially because I was supposed to be, you know, this crazed, addicted to killing person and had to get into it, and I was, you know, reckless with that chainsaw. I don't think it would have ended very well.
Jack and Karen, their names are based on the two sidekick characters from Will and Grace, and those are the names that Rachel and I affectionately refer to each other as in real life, so I wanted to write a movie that finally had those nicknames in it for us. So we're Jack and Karen, and Rachel's actually responsible for naming a lot of the characters in the movie. I named a lot of the main characters, but she named all of the fraternity and sorority pledges, and she gave everybody their last names. Turns out Rachel's really good at naming people, so if you ever need help with baby names or character names, you know, contact Rachel. After we filmed the opening originally and watched it all the way through, we felt like it kind of took too long to get going. Yes, we had that opening dream sequence that also involves a horror movie, so it's two kind of fake out horror scenes in a row. You have the horror movie, and then you have my dream death sequence, and then I wake up from that. But then all the talking after, like while it had some good jokes in it, it was a little long and it was a little played out. So Rachel and I sat down and we talked about it, and we decided I was going to rewrite it. So I did. And you can now read the version we were going to use in the final version of the script, but it's way funnier and it's way more intense. Rachel's character Karen comes home, and I'm sacrificing a cat ritualistically because I've already discovered the Theta symbol, and it was the ancient symbol of death, and I found this ritual in this old book that I think it can restore my life by sacrificing this cat. And some of the jokes that were originally worked into the first version of the scene make their way back into this version of the scene too. But for the most part, it's almost an entirely new scene and a new way to open the movie, so I'm sad we didn't get to refilm that.
I became addicted to the bloodlust of killing people, and I am very mistrustful. You see our relationship as characters shift from supportive best friends to almost a love-hate. Like, I've put up with Jack's shenanigans, and it's starting to really wear on whether or not I feel like we should still be that level of friends throughout this movie. So we go through all of these, internal struggles about how we feel about each other throughout the entire movie, and at the end everything, ends up fine. Jack doesn't actually have cancer. It was a lab error, and we end up happy on a beach. And it's kind of ironic because we started as just normal best friends, and now we have this weird secret that we've killed all these people, and we still end up happy, which doesn't happen often. The bad guys don't typically get away, but in this instance, people can struggle with, were we really bad guys, or do we have bad behavior because of a bad situation?
Basically, what we did was we went through and we filmed, Rachel and I, as many of our scenes as we possibly could first, and we knocked out as much of it back to back to back to back to back as we could. I think the opening scene took us at least a full night on its own, if not more than one night to film, but I think it was just one night. And then we kind of just started filming every other section of the script that was only me and her in the script first, so that we could get everything that was ours out of the way and focus on production and helping the other actors get into their characters and helping them and give them better direction, so we didn't have to worry about ourselves, even though we still had scenes with some of them too.
So after Josh and I finally finished filming our segments that we had together, we started bringing in people that were in scenes that were still smaller, so scenes that only had maybe one additional or two additional actors or actresses.
When we first started the production, we didn't want it to be a huge production because we saw that the bigger productions, like the last two versions of Stab 7, were failing because not everybody is reliable. So we were really taking a chance going into this, knowing that it originally started as something much smaller. The fraternity and the sorority house didn't really exist in the original version of the Theta movie. It was far more about mine and Rachel's characters and just a few random people that we killed. And then I had this idea to kind of expand upon the college aspect of it, because in the original version of the script, Rachel and I still kill a sorority girl. And I just thought it was a neat idea to have a B storyline and a C storyline. So like the B storyline is the fraternity house, the C storyline is the sorority house, and the D storyline is actually the Mud and Bubba Tooie characters that eventually get worked in, and they get their own little storyline too that plays out. So there's actually 4 different storylines that are going on that all kind of get intermingled in this, and out of those storylines we accomplish completing almost 3 of them in filming. So almost all of mine and Rachel's stuff is done. Every single thing shot at the fraternity house is done, and the fraternity pledges still had 2 more scenes to film that they weren't able to film. Mud and Bubba Tooie were about halfway done their stuff, and then anything involving the sorority sisters besides one scene never got filmed.
Mud and Bubba Tooie are characters that we have never written in. They're not really human. Mud is this 1000% hillbilly, not quite to the hills have eyes concept of a hillbilly, but almost there. Bubba Tooie, however, is very much the hills have eyes. She's this creature that is supposed to be a result of lots of inbreeding, trying to move a fake body wrapped in a carpet in the middle of a busy area of Manchester was absolutely terrifying, but also quite hilarious. Poor Chuck was dropped so many times. He lost limbs. They went sliding downstairs. The apartment building that's directly across from him sees us trying to move this body down the stairs, and it very convincingly looked like a body in a rug. And you just hear them scream. I don't know if we have it in the outtakes, but you hear someone scream, "That better be fake!" And we just kind of keep moving. They don't even stop a beat, really. I was pretty sure that the cops were going to end up being called on us, but never happened. Not that time, anyway.
The Mud and Bubba Tooie characters are just so crazy. Like a hillbilly and his random, creature-like assistant that sell body parts and human teeth on the side of the road, and it's just crazy. And Mud is actually played by my actual cousin in real life. So we really are cousins. His name's Corey in real life, Corey Dudley.
Hi, my name's Corey Dudley. I played Mud in the movie Theta. Mud is a hillbilly who sells body parts, cleanup guy, kind of dirty, gross, just a weird guy. He's got an assistant, Bubba Tooie. She's kind of a gremlin, goblin-looking, weird, incestual creature. I got the part as Mud. I'm actually Josh's real cousin in real life. Played his cousin in the movie Theta, Mud. You know, the set, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun making the movie. One of my favorite parts was the scene where we try to muscle the body out the door, and it was quite interesting getting that filmed, I can tell you that much. But no, it was a good time, it was fun. I had a blast, and I can't wait for more. There was another scene too where we were out filming. We were sitting on the side of the road selling teeth and random body parts and jars and stuff, and we actually had people stopping by not to buy the teeth obviously, but just to kind of check everything out and see what the heck we were doing out there. It was really interesting. During that same scene, the lighting was quite atrocious. I mean, we fixed it eventually, but it was quite a process. You know, we had to go from a car to headlights to, you know, trying to plug this into that, and it was quite wild. Unfortunately, we weren't able to film all of my scenes. I think I got about 3 out of the 5 filmed that I was supposed to be in, and which is kind of a disappointment. I would have really, really liked to see how Mud's character played out and where the movie would have gone. The script was fucking great. Ooh, I don't know if I could say fuck.
You can.
Oh, I can say fuck all I want, so there we go. It was fucking great. But no, it was a good script. Unfortunately, you know, like I said, I would have really enjoyed to film the rest of it, just to see how it played out, and I think it would have been a pretty good hit. I came in costumed up, and then, you know, getting covered in all the black paint, so it looked like I was dirty and gross. It wasn't that much black paint, but yeah, you know, the teeth thing was pretty wild. Having to do a bunch of food coloring in my mouth just to make my teeth look horrific, and they looked god awful. They were disgusting. So after makeup, you know, we run lines and try to get everyone focused and everyone on task and try to get everything accomplished that day. Run our lines, shoot our scenes a couple times, just, you know, because it's rough, but, you know, eventually everyone gets it and everyone clicks in sync and it comes out great. Some of the struggles on set, where some people had a difficult time remembering their lines, whether they were just too excitable or too happy to be here. I don't know what the case was, but there was, you know, sometimes people would forget their lines, and you'd sit here for a while waiting for makeup, waiting for them to learn the lines, stopping a scene so they can go over their lines again. But all in all, it was an awesome time. Highly recommend it, and I hope I can come back.
Unfortunately, Theta is another production that got shut down. It's our 3rd movie in a row that got shut down, and it basically put all of StabMovies.com on pause because it was such a hit to us. The script for Theta is one of my favorite things I've written because it's completely original and it combines a lot of things that people like about the Stab movies. Like, it has the mass killers, it has the harassment, it even has some of the same weapons. We have some of the same actors like Mark Haggett and Dave Allen come back. We have Ashley Younger in it. We have me and Rachel. You know, we have some Stab alumni in it, and then we have a bunch of fresh faces in it. Oh, Nicole Linton also came back. She doesn't ever get a chance to film. And all of the fresh faces are also really cool people too. So it was a really great cast, and we had a really good thing going. And then, of course, the Stab 7 curse had to kind of carry over. We actually got to film all of the fraternity stuff that takes place in the fraternity house after me and Rachel filmed our scenes. And that was a super fun experience. We had a great cast of characters in that, and every character was kind of written in their own way. So that was really fun to see that not only were they diverse in the script, but they were really diverse in real life too. The actors that we got from all over the place just blended together, and they were such a real mix of people. Like, they weren't all Hollywood hotties, and they weren't all average looking people, and they weren't all white people, you know, like, it was a really good blend of different looking people. Muscly guys, skinny guys, fat guys, black guys, white guys. We had a great combination and diverse group, and they were all talented in just as many ways as they were diverse.
We're in the Greek life of universities and colleges, so we need fraternities and sororities. We filmed the fraternity first. Tina, who was great and let us use her house as a fraternity house, allowed us to come and film there, and so her place is really the main focus of anything to do with the fraternity. So even though some of our cast had been in movies before that we've done, because I was living in Pennsylvania, this cast, aside from Josh and Ashley, felt like a brand new cast. Like the entire movie was new to me. It was like walking into a new movie, basically, and especially this fraternity, because everybody that was in it was somebody that I had never worked with. Our pledge cast was great. We had, Mark McCarthy, we had Jack Karen and Lamar and Dan, and it was so much fun. Oh, Chris, of course, how could I forget Chris? They were such a strange mix of personalities and acting abilities, and it all really seemed to work. I remember how well everybody seemed to meld, like they had been working together forever, so it was really cool to see, that cast come together.
My name is Mark Haggett. I played Adam Holt in the StabMovies production, Theta. My character, Adam Holt, was the fraternity president. Once again, macho guy. He's just a jock douchebag like every other character that I ever played. Awesome. I am very versatile. I can play so many types of jock douchebag. Every single type of jock douchebag. Cast me.
Hi, I'm Dave Allen, and I played Troy in the movie Theta. I played a frat boy in that movie who was very ambiguously gay, but never admitted it. And to me, that was an incredible character, because I feel like what's natural for me is to be comedic and do a comedic role. So to play that part as if, the character is obviously gay, but he doesn't know it, to me was really a lot of fun. And it turns out by the end of the movie, we never find out if he is or not, but we find out that his macho, masculine, chauvinistic best friend actually is gay and is in love with him. So that was like a nice twist.
So the other thing about Adam's character is he ends up coming out that he's gay right before he dies.
Troy, I love you! I should have told you that I love you!
But, in a macho way, he's like, hey, I'm gay, now I'm gonna kill people. All my scenes ended up filming in one location over 2 days, I believe.
A lot of them brought up a lot of exciting things to their scenes. Like, Chris Bethune is amazing to work with, and he can find comedy in anything. There were even times during filming that I had to be like, all right, Chris, listen, this is not one of those scenes that you can add extra comedy into, we don't need that there, we may not even use this shot anyways, But there are some of his funny lines that get actually used in the scripts, like him having to leave the situation because of his bubble guts, he was that funny on set. And then Mark as the alpha male is just fucking perfect. So that was amazing to film with him and Dave and Imad together. They made a great team. And Mark and Dave really play well off of each other, and they're best friends in real life. So I know I can write awful things for them and they'll do it for me. And that's one of the best parts about working with them, is how cool they are and how relaxed they are and how open they are to a lot of things that I want them to do.
There was one scene we were filming where we put all the pledges in a circle, and they gotta spank it to one of the pledges' old grandmothers. Watching everybody's individual reactions, while sitting back, and obviously I'm not acting at that point when they're filming everyone else. Well, it was pretty hilarious. Some people are like, oh yeah, that's cool. And others are like, what the fuck, I want to throw up.
Dave talks about a scene where he had to rub lotion on Mark's back, and Mark kind of had a little bit of a panic attack about it. So I'll let them explain that one to you guys.
There was this really uncomfortable scene between Mark and Dave, in the morning in the kitchen, and I remember laughing at just how affected Mark was by it, because Mark and Dave have been friends forever, but the minute Dave had to rub Mark's shoulders, he instantly was angry and uncomfortable, and we had to stop a couple of times to make sure he was okay to continue. He did eventually work through it, and the resulting scene is quite funny, and the outtakes are quite funny as well, and that weird tension is what we needed to make their characters believable, but it was quite an ordeal.
And Mark and I, by this time, we were real close. We had done a bunch of things together. We were really, really good friends. And Josh had written in the script, I can't even remember what the reason is, but my character is going to rub lotion on Mark's back. And so there he is, sitting there shirtless. And Mark in real life is, he's not super comfortable in his sexuality, I suppose. Actually, dump that. Don't let Mark see me say that about him.
That part's cut.
But so Mark is this dude that like is, I'll do whatever, but he draws the line. And one thing below that line is he doesn't want any gay stuff happening. And me, it's like, I really don't care. We're acting, and it's not like we're making out with each other, doing anything sexual. I'm literally putting lotion on you. Like, what if we were at the beach, you know, and you're starting to get sunburned? I don't know. So anyways, I put the lotion on, and like, the kid is like tensing up and freaking out. And finally, Chris comes in, and Chris, we had just met that weekend, but he comes in and he's like, you guys are best friends. What's the big deal? Just let him put it on you. And and Mark's lines are something like, oh, that does feel good. And it was like paining him to let me do this. And then, of course, for whatever reason, the angles were bad or the lighting was bad. We had to do it over and over. And you could just see Mark getting more and more pissed off every time that we had to refilm it. Like, why is it such a huge deal that, you know, your boy is touching your back? Like, literally, that was it. And I mean, if I wanted to be funny, which I definitely did, you know, I could have like reached around and grabbed his nipple or something, but he probably would have knocked me out. So, you know, I kept it to the script or whatever. I don't know. I think that's one of those memories he probably represses, but to me, it's still funny.
There was a scene that Dave ended up having to put lotion on my back. That was a little awkward because Dave was getting very into it. He was like, I don't know. He was pretty into it. Whatever. Dave's weird, but we're friends, so it's fine.
There were a lot of great moments in Theta, and I took a lot of crazy chances with the script. I wrote in a circle jerk scene, which turned a lot of actors off from playing parts in the movies. And it wasn't anything bad. Obviously, I always try to warn people, you know, we make stuff for YouTube. This isn't going to be anything like not so crazy, like you're going to be fake jerking off. Like, it's not real. I'm not going to actually have you guys do a circle jerk. And same thing if there was a sex scene or an aggressive kissing scene. Like, I'm not going to make you guys do anything that you're uncomfortable with. My character in a dream sequence has a 3-way makeout scene with a guy and a girl, and none of us complained, you know. We all agreed no tongue, but we went for it. This movie was awesome because I got to do all of it with my best friend, and Rachel was really involved in the story of this too, and it was the first time that we decided that we were actually just going to be co-directors. Rachel had done so much in all of the other movies that I thought it was finally time that I wasn't the only one that was credited as a director too. So Rachel and I are both credited as the director and executive producers of this movie. Rachel gives it her all, and she works with the actors. Rachel even filmed the scenes of the boys like circling around Lamar's character, just deciding if they're going to kill him during the test scene. I wasn't even there for that. I was at home working on stuff for the scene that was coming next, and Rachel directed that entire thing all on her own and filmed it all on her entire own. And there was a lot of stuff like that throughout the movie where I'm like, hey, I gotta go work on this, I need you to take over the scene. And she knew the script so well because we had talked about it so many times and we had rehearsed our stuff so much. We really knew what was going on. And like I said, Rachel always knows what I want, so I don't question her directing skills. On a super, super rare occasion, I'll be like, actually, I was kind of hoping this would be a little bit more like this. But like 99.9% of the time, what Rachel says is what I would say, so, you know, I let her finally get her punches in too, and it's really fun to see Rachel in control and to co-direct with her.
I got some hands-on camera experience in this movie as well, but maybe not at the most opportune times. One that sticks out for me is the dream sequences that we're filming of, you know, Jack and Bridget and Will, and they're having this 3-way makeout session, which is really just a dream that Josh is having. I'm the one filming that, so if you notice while you're watching, there's at times this like really maybe cool to you but really oddly placed up angle to catch the weird 3-way kiss. That's actually me directly laying on the ground underneath them with the camera pointed up at the sky, essentially watching my best friend and my other friends like try and act their way through the most awkward 3-way kiss probably in the world.
So there are some really extreme moments in Theta, but Theta was a great blend of horror and comedy and drama and romance all kind of rolled into one.
For Josh to take his own creativity and abilities to try and create something new, something fresh, something original, where it still looks like one of the Stab movies, feels like one of the Stab movies, has similar actors that you might recognize, and locations and stuff like that, the fact that it was a completely different story apart from that, that upset a lot of fans, and I didn't really understand that, because it's like, okay, we've evolved now. Now we're going to go and we're going to try and do things completely original. And I feel like this was the perfect film to start on that path. And unfortunately, we were unable to finish it. But from beginning to end, you know, when I read the story, it was a great story. It's almost like, who are you rooting for? Everybody's a little bit of good, a little bit of evil, which is kind of synonymous with humans in general. You know, I mean, we all do good, we all do bad. I mean, well, maybe most of us don't murder a bunch of people, but, you know, it's a movie, so. And we got to follow the horror theme, but then also the cool thing about this, and Josh really wrote it well, was it was a mixture of horror and comedy, which was a first for the Stab Movies team, and it was just something that I really love, because my two favorite genres are horror, and then actor-wise, my favorite genre is comedy. So this was a mixture of the two. You know, there was a lot of blood and gore and deaths, and it was really gruesome and gory, yet at the same time there's moments that you could really laugh, and I feel like my character was one of the ones that brought a lot of laughter to you throughout the film. And just the idea that all of his frat boys are all like looking at each other like, what, is this kid gay or something, and I'm just oblivious to it. Like, I don't know, that was really one of the best roles that I've ever gotten to play, and I'm still a little bit devastated that the entire movie didn't get to be finished, because the way that the whole story would go from beginning to end just would have been great if you guys could have gotten to see it all. So.
But the frat house filming was awesome. We filmed a lot of it at my friend's house. She let us use her house for the weekend, and these boys were just in this house working their asses off with these lines, outside doing push-ups. These boys can do push-ups. Push-ups! I can't do push-ups. Not this boy. No, I'm not a push-up boy. But all of the boys in Theta could do push-ups, which was amazing, because I don't know what I would have done if I had gotten cast in that part, and they're like, you need to do 10 push-ups. I'd be like, I can do 2.
There was a scene where sorority girls come over, that one was my girlfriend, and then the other ones they weren't together, or maybe they were together. One was with Ahmad, and they come in, and this girl, she didn't speak English very well, so that was interesting. Ahmad swears that he doesn't have broken English. I mean, he does. He's all right, but like, he's got an accent. He doesn't think he has an accent, but he's got an accent. And this girl had a hard accent. But like, there was a scene where they have to do a shotgun, where that's how she said it. And then she literally attacks Ahmad. Like, I look over while Josh is filming this shit, and I thought they were going to be banging on the couch. It was very intense. We get done filming that scene, and we're talking with Ahmad out back later. He was like, I don't know what the fuck happened. It just happened, and I didn't know what to do. She was like biting his lip and stuff, and he had nothing to do. It was just very interesting. You're just sitting back, and you know, it's all supposed to be stage work. That was softcore porn. That was right there.
Maria was like aggressively making out with Ahmad, and when she first started, it was funny for the scene, and then it just kept going, and I think that she was getting excited to act and like start getting into her character, and maybe she got a little too much into her character. But I just remember everybody that wasn't involved in that particular scene that was still on set was very uncomfortable watching it happen. And I think Ahmad might have been a little uncomfortable too.
So a part that was really fun as that character was he's basically the vice president or whatever it's called of the fraternity, and I think Mark's character was actually the leader of the fraternity, so I'm like Mark's sidekick or whatever. And we're trying to initiate all these pledges or put them through pledge week, whatever it is. My school didn't do all that stuff, so I'm not really sure what all those things are called. But basically that's what's happening. So we have all these new pledges that are trying to join our fraternity, and we're putting them through things. And in the beginning, I believe it's when you first meet my character, I'm out there, I'm screaming at him, and I'm angry. It's almost military in the way that I'm yelling at them. And then I just switch and almost turn queen as I'm offering them water. And I did it in a way that everybody made fun of later, because I gave like a little booty wiggle or something, and everybody was making fun of me for it. But I mean, that was what I really liked, turning the comedic part of myself on in that film, while at the same time, actually I remember Jim Carrey said once in an interview, and yeah, he's probably totally insane now, but he said once in an interview that his characters never know that they're in a comedy. So everything that they're doing, while it's hilarious, to them, it's legit. So that's how I wanted to play this character in that movie. And one of the great things about this, just like the other Stab movie production I was in, or a lot of productions that I do that are more on the low budget independent level, is that we got to make a lot of great friends again. Like I mentioned Chris a little while ago, we're still connected through social media, and we've had plans to try and make a few things together. Of course, Mark and I are always doing things together. So I mean, that was really great, getting to spend time with these people that have some of the same goals, some of the same life stories as you. We really connect, and it's almost like in that time we become a family, because there's definitely domestic disputes that happen. There's a lot of love, a lot of just shared joy amongst us, and that's probably the best part. If I had to answer the question, what is the best part of being a part of the Stab movies, is, like I said before in the first interview from Stab 7, is it's the relationships that you make, the friends that you make. And these are people that you could probably contact anytime and say, hey, I'm trying to do a little production here, and they'll drop everything and be there for you.
There was a scene where someone who had gotten eliminated from the fraternity running and the hazing rituals, they were told to kill, but it was a test and they really weren't supposed to kill him. And this led to more eliminations. And then the final brothers are accepted into the fraternity, and they throw a party, which is getting very close to the end of the movie. It's almost the climax of the movie, and then the ending is when we finally go to kill my ex, Will, and his girlfriend, Bridget. Which we never got to film. But we filmed this huge party scene at the fraternity house that turns into a massacre, and that was really, really fun to film and really, really complicated. We were actually going to have more extras too, and it was getting so loud and so hot in this house that we actually decided to not use more extras, because originally we were going to fill the whole first floor with people, so that it was really a lot of madness. But then once the madness began and people started running around and partying, and then the deaths had to start, there was just so many people that if we invited anyone else, it would have actually been dangerous to have that many people fake running around, because we wouldn't have been able to control the chaos. You'll notice in the background people running, and you may notice some of the same people running over and over again, because there are a limited amount of people, and it has to look like we're slowly weeding them out. So a couple of them run by a couple of times, and Ashley chases one poor girl around for 5 minutes throughout that massacre, just because we needed filler time and to keep this girl alive until the end, so that we had more people running around to make it look like a bigger party.
In the party scene, the epic party scene, which was so cool to put together, just the lighting and the music and the whole vibe of it being this gigantic fraternity, house party, was really cool. But what we hadn't accounted for was that in order to make a party look realistic, you need alcohol. And in the past, alcohol had really been a problem. And so we ended up making a rule that nobody could arrive, to film their scenes if they were intoxicated by alcohol or drugs, because we've had problems where people trying to get in character have gotten so intoxicated that they literally could not film scenes. And just for the safety of everyone, we never wanted to be in a position where someone drove home after filming and they were intoxicated and maybe one of us didn't notice it. So we decided it was a good idea to make it a rule. Now in this instance, Tina was helping us find extras, and so she made it seem like a party so that people would come and be realistic, but that did involve alcohol. And there was this group of 2 people that came, and one of them was very obviously already intoxicated. The other, I'm pretty sure, was too, but not nearly as obvious. And in the scene that we're filming, they need to run away and they need to get down this narrow hallway. And the girl that already arrived intoxicated eats it, like wipes out, gets right back up, even though it looked like the most painful fall, like trip and fall ever, gets right back up, is like, I'm okay, and just keeps going. And Josh ended up using the footage, even though it should have been a blooper, because it was authentic. She was wasted and she fell hard, and it was funny, so we used it.
But there was a lot of special effects in that one. A lot of the characters die in that scene, and that leads up to me almost dying. It leads up to Ashley's character dying. It also leads up to the part where I accidentally slit Mark's throat. We have to discuss Mark's famous throat slitting, okay? We were filming a scene, I swung a real knife at Mark, and it nicked his throat. Like, to the point that, like, a cat has scratched me deeper than this, but Mark had a panic attack about it and almost quit, and him and I are really close, so I was able to calm him down eventually and get him to finish the scene, you know, but it was a big debacle. But again, they both had so much to say about it. I'm just gonna let them tell you about it.
I end up getting killed after being all big and macho. Josh runs up, he like goes to like tackle me or something and just like bounces off my chest. And then somehow he gets a knife out of nowhere, stands up, and slits my throat. So I was like, Josh, you're using the real knife. I want you to be at least this far away from my neck because the angle doesn't call for you to be that close. So be at least this far away from my neck. Yes, Mark, I know, I'll be careful. I won't cut you. I don't want to see you die on my set. You know the liability, blah, blah, blah. Bitch cuts my throat. Believe that shit? He actually cut my throat. I have never been so pissed on a set in my entire life. I was so close to quitting, but I didn't because I'm a professional. You know, I had to use the alcohol wipe, clean up. You know, it was a little cut. Oh, it was a little cut. Did I overreact? I don't think I overreacted because I actually got my neck cut by a real fucking knife. If that happened to anybody else, I'm sure they would have flipped out too.
Josh wanted to use a real knife for like the shininess of it or the realness of it or whatever, and when he came at Mark, somehow they connected. Like, you know, he didn't hit his jugular or anything, but apparently he did actually cut him. And Mark told me afterwards that he was moments away from either killing Josh or quitting the movie at that time. And it was literally like we had been filming for hours and hours and we just needed to get like 3 more shots. And I've been laying there on the floor dead for a while. And I was thinking to myself, Mark, just shut up, because he freaked out about it. And I'm like, Mark, just shut up and just be a man, you know, Mr. Macho, and let's get this scene done so that we can leave and be done. Like, literally, this is all we have left to do. And now you want to turn diva and start a fight? But I mean, you know, Mark's my boy, so it's all right that I say all that about him. But literally, like, that was one of the moments. Like, all of us could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, we literally just got to get these shots. And then that happened. He gets nicked, like, as if he hasn't cut himself worse than that shaving. But he gets nicked, and it's like World War III. You know, it was the worst thing that's ever happened to him in his life or whatever. And it was like, dude, just take a deep breath, just chill, just stand there and let's finish this. And fortunately, we were able to, but, you know, Mark went on and on about how torturous that moment was for him and stuff.
Mark instantly was like, you know, you actually sliced me. He starts freaking out, which absolutely, probably very scary. But when we turned all the lights on and started to inspect the damage, it was the smallest mark I'd ever seen, to the point where, not even exaggerating, we had to like get in close and see what he was talking about, because he's like, oh, it's hurt, you cut me, I'm bleeding. And it was the smallest little mark, the skin wasn't even broken, and he just freaks out, like instant anger.
And fun fact, the shot that we use in the movie of Mark getting his throat slit, the wide shot of it from far away is actually the shot that I cut him in. I added in a digital scrape, so that part's not real when you see it. But the reaction on his face is real, because that is the real reaction of the knife just nicking his neck, but him thinking he's getting his throat slit in real life. So how could I not use that reaction? Because it was genuine, it was real.
But yeah, it's, you know, Josh is still my bro. No big deal. no harm, no foul. I don't, I'm not dead. So it's fine. I didn't bleed out on anybody's floor. Could he have been closer? Yeah. And then that probably would have strangled him. But he didn't cut any more than just like a little bit. So I didn't actually kill him. He didn't actually kill me. The thing got filmed. I just had to clean up a little bit, compose myself, because I'm a professional and I get shit done. And then it got done. So I don't think it was an overreaction, maybe a slight overreaction, but it wasn't an overreaction. Dave, go F yourself, bro. Alright?
Some of it I understand because maybe he was a little scared, but for the mark that he actually got, way of an overreact in my opinion. No offense, Mark.
Mark getting his throat hit by me was like the only time I've ever actually injured someone while using a real knife. I got trained in stage combat in college, so I'm actually pretty good at stunt fighting and stuff like that. So a mistake like that is regrettable, of course, but thank God it was a minor one and it wasn't too bad. I'm not gonna lie, I know Mark will be mad that I said this. Like, I'm not happy I hurt him, but it gave us a really, really good shot. I love you, Mark.
We had this one character which, the actress, I'm not really sure how experienced she was. For whatever reason, though, she got cast into the role, and it was kind of a big role. And she actually ends up killing me at the end with a knife through the throat. And so we set that up. We actually had this woman who was nice enough to let her use her house as the frat house or whatever it was. And we're throwing this huge blacklight party. We have all these people in there. A couple extras showed up that we actually literally just put a Facebook invite out. Please, please, if you're in the area, come down and do this. And a few people showed up and, got to know us and see what things were all about. Never to be seen or heard from again, but they, everybody was there. It's a big massacre. Everybody ends up getting killed. And it took forever for this girl to get the take right. Like, it was so difficult for her to just swing a fake knife at my neck. Like, why? Why is this so hard for you? And that was my death in that movie. It ended up looking good in the final cut.
We got a scene with this girl who's supposed to be another killer, and here we go again, It's just like, I can't get it right. And simple directions. Move left. Just move left. And she can't move left! No, seriously. Take direction. It's easy. One step. That's all you gotta do. And the scene's done. 20 takes later, finally takes that step, and we can move on.
So we had filmed so much at the fraternity house and really tried to get as much as we could out of the way that it finally came to be the time that we needed to start working on the sorority stuff. So the first thing that we filmed was actually still at the fraternity house. It was 3 of the sorority sisters when Sabrina, Grace, and Maria all show up to the fraternity house, and obviously the president is already dating someone and they're starting to mingle with the fraternity brothers. Some of the things that I remember about this is that Ashley literally would not take direction well on her lines. She was overacting every single line written for her. And I just remember Josh and I continuously trying to be like, try and bring it down a little. You're kind of making yourself a caricature and not an actual character. And it did not matter. Whatever we said, nothing worked. She just kept overacting everything. And what was most frustrating about that is that we had to keep feeding her her own lines because unlike, the past experiences when we had dealt with her and she was on top of it and ready to go, she was kind of a mess this time around. She didn't know her lines. She constantly wanted to go out and party. She was obviously staying with Josh and it just was not a good situation. We had a huge cast because we had to make it look, realistic and convincing that there was a fraternity and a sorority. So we had to fill bodies basically so that it looked realistic. And because of that, and because we had so many out-of-staters, Josh and I were running around constantly. And so there's many points in this movie for the first time where maybe I'm actually filming scenes and Josh isn't even on location. And then maybe later I'm running to get food to physically feed the cast and he's filming things. So there were a couple of points about this that were interesting. One, even though Josh is very comfortable filming, and I had done some in the past, it was the first time that it was really up to me to direct these scenes instead of just film them at Josh's direction. And I really kind of reprised my role of stage mom or, cast mom, because there were so many people staying at Josh's house or staying locally in a hotel that, in order to make sure everybody was taken care of, we needed to feed them, and we needed to also help them if they needed to find things in a city that they'd never been in, or run lines with them, because everything was moving so quickly. We needed to make sure that they were truly ready, that when someone was filming their scene that they were good to go. So there were several times that I actually bought groceries and cooked for this entire cast.
There's a lot of fun stuff we added in while we were filming too. We added in, I wanted to up Rachel's comedy a little, because while it's fun to have her play the straight woman against my crazy, Rachel plays drunk and weird very well and very excitedly. So we kind of came up with this idea to have her character kind of be into Mud's character, even though he's supposed to be gross and disgusting and a hillbilly and shit like that. She's all about him. She's so into Mud. So that was a fun thing that we added in, and it really upped the level of what we were doing.
I did get to film all my stuff. See, we had the hazing stuff. Oh, we had Imad fake jumping through a window. That was pretty funny. He had glass and stuff stuck in his arm. And he was like, dude, that was a sick entrance. And I was like, bitch, no Batman entrance. And he's like, but it was cool. I was like, yeah.
I really, really enjoyed the character I played in Theta, just because it was a lot of the character's serious, but everything he's saying and doing is hilarious. And, that's really, for me, that's my type of role. And it's really great, too, because when independent films try to make independent comedies, they usually are not good. So it was really nice to have this one made that was a mixture of the two genres, comedy and horror, so that I feel like if it could have gotten finished, that it worked really, really well. And I really enjoyed that character that I played in that film, because in the end, you never really find out, what is this guy's sexuality? Is he really just stupid, or what's going on with him? So that I just really enjoyed. And I also like that was an original script. We weren't trying to do a fan film or anything like that. So my hope is, going forward, that the Stab Movies will continue to make films, hopefully without all the curses and issues that we had before. But, sticking with the horror genre, I like that. And I like the idea that maybe I can keep coming back and playing different roles that are a little bit of comic relief, and just have more freedom to really expand with my talents and bring them to you guys.
Fun parts about that set. Mark, he was really good at the guitar. He started playing the guitar out back. I think we were singing Backstreet Boys and shit. Maybe a little bit of Britney Spears too. That was pretty fun. That was probably one of the most fun times I had on the Theta set. Probably one of the most fun times I've had on any of the Stab movie production sets. Least favorite part about Theta is definitely me getting my throat slit. Yeah. And that we didn't finish it. Again, fucking people. Unprofessional. Don't finish shit. That really pisses you off, because you screw over all the people who put the time and the work and the effort into trying to finish it. It's extremely selfish not to finish a project that over 20, 30 people are working on, because you screw over 20 or 30 people. It's not just you losing out on your night of binge drinking that you want to do. It's everyone losing out on the multiple weekends of binge drinking that they could have been doing. All right? Yeah, you're not really getting paid for the Stab movie productions, but you actually signed that you're going to do it.
The unfortunate thing about Theta like the only other stab movie production I've been a part of, was that we had to shut it down before we could finish it with the same deal. People had committed and then dropped out and just everything fell apart. And I mean, I guess people don't realize, this takes a lot of work. Like Josh has everything planned out ahead of time, and his plans are going to work perfectly as long as the people he's counting on can be there and be a part of it. If you say you're going to be there, if you say you want this part and you take the part, then you have to show up. I mean, it took a lot. He had to get locations and spend a lot of money on that type of thing, and people just bailed and, I mean, screwed him over personally, but really screwed the rest of us over, because I feel like this movie had an amazing story.
The fraternity house kind of fell in our laps. Tina was great and allowed us to use her house, and we were allowed to decorate it. But when you're decorating for boys, what do, right? You just kind of take stuff away and minimalize it, because guys don't typically, this is a stereotype, but in movies, when you're seeing fraternity houses, they're not neatly decorated, and it's, very worn furniture, old furniture, or, next to nothing in the ways of home decor. So that's always easy, but when you take a whole house full of girls, now you need a house that's very specialized. You're not going to see a whole sorority in that type of house. So we had to find one that fit, and we did finally find it. It was expensive, but we found it. And, just trying to facilitate scheduling and finding a weekend that all of the sorority sisters and some of the fraternity brothers could come to film these scenes was next to impossible. I honestly feel like it took us 6 months just to all agree on a date. So when we finally, booked the house, agreed on a date, kept sending out reminders, even going as far as just isolating parts in the scripts that they really should focus on for that weekend and sending those out separately, even though they had full scripts, for it then to get canceled because just everybody basically, except for the 4 of us that lasted, didn't show up, was so infuriating. And I don't think I've seen Josh angry, but I don't think I've ever seen him that angry. And I think that there was a lot that went into that, not just the fact that, we spend our own money, as we say time and time again, but the actual preparation of all the little details, making sure there was food, making sure people had their lines, knew what they needed to wear, trying to corral everyone's travel plans when they were going to be arriving. And mind you, this is now the 3rd movie we're working on that we're having similar issues where people are quitting. I think we lost over 25 actors in Theta. It almost seemed like a joke at one point, because it couldn't have been real that we were losing that many people. We had people who would sign on and never show up for their first day of filming, or never show up for their read-through, or they'd come for their read-through, film 3 scenes, and never come back and just not talk to us. The overwhelming feedback is I'm not getting paid and it's not my commitment, which was frustrating for us, because if we could pay all our actors, we would, but we couldn't. So that weekend, we really took a blow, the fact that people didn't show up. And Ashley, ultimately, I would say Ashley is the reason that the movie finally got shut down, because she was supposed to be at that weekend and didn't show up. She was going to find a replacement to bring with her, and then nobody showed up, including herself or her replacements. She never knew her lines. She started to sort of unravel, and her behavior was bizarre. And so with her having such a large part and that weekend being canceled because nobody showed up, it was clear that this was now the 3rd movie we were dealing with that needed to get shut down. And so that was frustrating. And we can release all of the footage we want to, and fill in the blanks of things that weren't filmed of scripts, but it's never going to be the same as a full movie. It's never going to show all the work that we put into it. Even when a movie is done, you don't see all of the background work that we do, but you get a better picture of what went into it. But here, we're literally just inserting words where scenes should have been, and those scenes would have made the movie. So, yeah.
So we have the whole cast trying to get a hold of Ashley to see what's going on, because we have 2 days until we have to be at this place, and nobody can get a hold of her. We finally get a hold of her mother, and her mother feeds us some story that we're not even going to get into. But basically, Ashley and now 2 other girls are missing from production. So we're like, okay, what do we do? Like, we can't film all these other scenes with Ashley missing because she's kind of the main idea of them. We can try to film around them, we can film Maria's death scene, but then we're gonna have to rent this house again for a second time and spend another $2,000, come back out here with the cast again, most of whom we were already losing because the boys were only available for a certain amount of time and they were already done their filming besides these 2 scenes they had to film. So we were screwed. So this continues, and then the girl that is playing the main president of the sorority also quits. She has something come up last minute and she can't do it anymore, and she is working on sending a replacement, and we're like, okay, now we're down to a day. What do? We're going out to Western Massachusetts in a day. So we go through all these girls, every actor in the entire movie, even all the males, everybody. We're all trying to find new actresses to come in and take over these parts, even knowing that we have to go back and now refilm a scene because we have to replace this actress. And if we have to replace Ashley and this actress, we might as well refilm that scene anyway. So we think we get it all sorted out, and then we get confirmation that the replacement for the sorority president is coming, and then we think Ashley is now coming too. So we're all set. We pack up everything, we head out, and then we get the message that it's a no-go for Ashley, and the 2 girls that she would bring still definitely aren't coming, and then the replacement for the sorority president isn't coming, and then Emad, who's one of the main characters in the fraternity house, has a scene with the male fraternity pledges that come into the sorority house, and now he can't come because he's stuck in New York. So we literally can film nothing. Like, we couldn't even film the scenes with the pledges because we didn't have all the actors to film the scenes with the pledges. And it was literally the biggest mess and debacle we've ever had to deal with. We set it aside and we made a separate little short film while we were out there, but that's what shut down production on Theta. Basically, the entire sorority house quit, and we had no control over it.
Hi, my name is Nicole Linton, and I played Addison in Theta. My character, Addison, was like queen bitch. Like, she just kind of, you know, didn't take no shit. I love playing that girl. I do a really good job at doing that girl because, like, I feel it in my soul. Theta was unfortunately it went downhill kind of because we had a lot of people fall out. It could have been something so amazing. It had the bones to be something so amazing. We had all gotten together and, you know, done our read-throughs and everything, and we had like a fun time when everybody got together. Josh was kind enough, he extended his home, you know, got some snacks and whatnot. Everybody seemed to vibe really well together, you know. Other than that, it wasn't very long-lived. When it came time for the sorority house, Josh spent a ridiculous amount of money to get us down to this place for filming, and it wasn't just for the sorority filming. It was supposed to be everybody. It was like 14 people that were supposed to be there, and four showed up. So that's where we created Swipe Left. We had to, you know, make kind of lemonade out of lemons, and that's what it was. I would have really enjoyed actually filming being Addison. I really would have loved to bring that character to life, but that's okay. Instead, I got to be Alexis the Tinder whore.
That was super disappointing, especially coming from people that we trusted, like Ashley. And, you know, we don't like to call out names, but this is the reality of this situation. Everything was going smoothly until then. And, you know, Ashley was problematic with some people beforehand too. But then to lie to us and not show up and not have the actors you promised and not show up for something you committed to, and it just started this downfall of events that eventually led to the complete shutdown of what we thought was going to be our best movie to date.
Theta is probably started my most favorite, ended my least favorite.
We thought about going back and trying to finish Theta, and we just don't think it's possible unless we start all over. Overall, what we filmed, I think is great. Like I said, I do wish we had got to refilm the opening and film the rest of the movie, obviously. And that's just really sad. You know, like, we really thought the curse was over and that we were bringing something new and fresh and exciting to you guys, and we really wanted Theta to blow your mind. And I think if we got the chance to finish it the right way, it would have been something that led us to making a lot more original full-length movies. But all it did now was remind us that we really have to work on finding people who are super committed to working for free, and that's really hard to do. You never know, maybe somewhere in the future there'll be a massive rewrite of Theta and there'll be a new version of it that comes out. But for now, you get the unfinished version of it, and I hope you enjoy every last second of it, because we put our blood, sweat, and tears and tons and tons of money into this. We still didn't buy new camera equipment, but you'll notice the production values are much higher, the costumes are better, the effects are better. We spent a lot of money to make this movie great, and it really, really sucks that so many people let us down on it.